Right guys, this is where we really start to get into the hectic part of this championship season. From now onwards, the games are going to come thick and fast. We've got a full schedule coming up in midweek, and of course we're going to be here to predict all of those matches. Along with predicting the midweek matches, we're also going to be discussing the games that took place over the weekend as well. Plenty of talking points to dive into today. And as always, I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Make sure to drop your score predictions down there as well. 350 likes will be massively appreciated, but without any further ado, let's jump into the predictions. So starting out at Turf Moor for Burnley up against Coventry. For Burnley, it was a good win over the weekend, 1-0 away at Bristol City. I do tend to think that the way Scott Parker sets them up, that is better geared to away matches like that, where they can be the team that are looking to break on the counter a little bit more and things like that. But like I say, good win for them. Could have been a little bit more comfortable given some of the chances they had in the second half of that game, but 3 points, another clean sheet, isn't something to be sniffed at. Going up against the Coventry side, who I think in the grand scheme of things picked up a solid point against Sheffield United. 2-2 draw in the end, obviously, aided by the fact they were playing against 10 men for the entirety of the second half. But Coventry are going to go through a transitional phase, from this point over the next few weeks. So whatever points they can pick up while they have this tough fixture running, I think they'll take. And this game, obviously, is no different. Burnley, especially at Turf Moor, have just been a really tough side to put your finger on this season because they're yet to lose at home this season. But in saying that, performance levels haven't been great either. So far this season, they've had 7 games at Turf Moor, 4 wins, 3 draws. All of them have been fairly low scoring. Burnley haven't really been conceding any goals in that time. They've only conceded 2 goals in home matches so far this season, but goals from open play have been pretty scarce. It feels like a tight encounter here. I just think with how strong that Burnley back line is at the moment, maybe they just about get over the line in this one again. Score prediction here, I'm going to go 1-0 Burnley. Maybe to edge it with a set piece or a penalty or something like that. Next time we go to Hull up against Sheffield Wednesday. Hull now find themselves in the bottom 3 after that loss over the weekend, losing 1-0 away at Luton. Two sides who have really struggled at the start of the season. It was a crucial game in both teams' seasons, and in the end it was Hull who were on the losing side of that one. And I don't think it'll get much easier in this one against Sheffield Wednesday either, who will definitely smell blood against a Hull City side who are winless in their last 8 championship matches. That's the second longest winless run in the league right now. For Sheffield Wednesday, it was a draw over the weekend against Cardiff. Bit of a frustrating one, probably from a Wednesday perspective. They obviously came from a goal behind in that one, only trailed for a couple of minutes, and then from that point onwards, it definitely looked like Wednesday were the more likely side to go on and win that game. They just couldn't find that bit of quality to kill off Cardiff in the end. A draw wouldn't massively surprise me here because it's at Hull. I just have a feeling that maybe Wednesday edge this one on the road. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go 2-1 Sheffield Wednesday, which will really compel the misery on Hull at the moment. Next then we go to Carrow Road for Norwich up against Plymouth. Is this the game where Norwich finally get their season back on track? It's 7 games without a win now for the Canaries. Obviously, their injury problems have been discussed quite a lot on the channel of late, but it was a decent point, I thought, over the weekend away at West Brom. Really end-to-end game, could have gone either way in that one, but both sides had to settle for a point in the end, and I think it's fair to say that Norwich are the obvious favourites coming into this fixture. Generally speaking, they have been quite strong at Carrow Road so far this season. I know they lost that game to Bristol City, but against a Plymouth side who typically struggle on the road, I fancy Norwich to create quite a few chances in this one. Plymouth, by the way, there's just something in the water at home park when it comes to getting back into games and scoring late goals. For the majority of that one against Watford, Plymouth probably were second best, but they always find a way to hang in there, especially in those home matches. And in the end, it was Andre Gray popping up with that 96-minute equaliser. Plymouth fans have enjoyed some real scenes at home park so far this season. On the road, though, like I was saying, I do fancy Norwich to have more of the ball in this one, get into more goal-scoring areas, and for that reason, I'm going to go 3-1 Norwich as my score prediction here. I do fancy them to get back to winning ways in this one. After that, we head to Brom Lane for Sheffield United up against Oxford. Bit of a frustrating one for the Blades over the weekend. That 2-2 draw against Coventry. Had Ahmed Hozic not been sent off, there's a very good chance that Sheffield United go on to win that game, but as they were very much under the cosh for pretty much the entirety of that second half against Coventry, it felt inevitable that eventually that equaliser would come. I do think this is a decent chance for them to bounce back at Bramall Lane here, where so far this season they've just been so strong. Up until this point, they've won 6 of their 7 home matches, yet to lose at home this season, and they've only conceded twice in the 7 home games that they played, and they're coming up against an Oxford side who will be licking their wounds after that quite damning defeat against Middlesbrough over the weekend. The first time this season where Oxford have really been put to the sword by a Championship side. For the majority of losses that Oxford have had up until this point, they've still been in the game, but Middlesbrough really showed no mercy in that one, and it did expose maybe a few defensive vulnerabilities within that Oxford back line, and an Oxford side going into this game against Sheffield United who are still searching for their first win on the road as well. Score prediction for me in this one, I'm going to go for a 2-0 Blades win, I think. Next then we go to Stoke up against Preston. Stoke continuing their decent unbeaten run. It's 4 without a loss now for Stoke City. A 1-1 draw with QPR over the weekend. Bit of a mixed bag in terms of an overall performance, and I think that's been the case with Stoke recently. They've not quite been firing on all cylinders, but they have been picking up points on a pretty regular basis. It was Tom Cannon with the moment of quality for Stoke City. I've got to be honest, the shape of Preston's back line at the moment, how vulnerable we look in those defensive positions, especially on transitions, coming up against a striker like Tom Cannon is a scary one at this moment in time. For Preston, it was a draw over the weekend against Derby, 1-1. We took the lead in that one. Nice goal from Sam Greenwood. Looked like maybe we were going to use that momentum to see the game out, but almost instantly Derby managed to find the back of the net, and then the second half for both sides really was just void of any sort of quality, creativity or anything like that really. So it doesn't leave a great taste going into this one away at Stoke, and away form has been Preston's main issue so far this season. We're yet to win on the road, and I'm not sure I can see an away victory come in this game either. In saying that, I do think we will get chances. Stoke, generally speaking, do allow quite a lot of shots against them game to game. So far this season, that's tended to be the case. For example, they've only kept 1 clean sheet now in their last 7 matches, and with Osmajic back in the frame for Preston at the moment as well, I do think we'll get a few chances in this game. It's just at the opposite end of the pitch. I think Stoke have got those goal-scoring threats about them at the moment, and with how vulnerable we look, almost every time the opposition goes forward at the moment, I struggle to see past a will where Stoke don't get at least 1, maybe 2 goals in this game. Score prediction for me, reluctantly, I'm going to go 2-1 Stoke. Preston's away form has just been far too inconsistent for me to be backing us at the moment. After that, to Vicarage Road for Watford up against Bristol City, and do you know what? This is a tough one to call because generally speaking, Watford have been really strong in home matches so far this season, but on the flip side of that, Bristol City have tended to be really good on the road as well, so I've got a feeling we're in store for a good game of football here, and it's two sides coming off the back of frustrating weekends for both of them really. Watford played some good stuff away at Plymouth, but ended up conceding that 96-minute goal to Andre Gray, which levelled the game up at 2-2. Bristol City had that tough one against Burnley, which was obviously a tight encounter. Losing that 1-0 in the end was a frustrating one. Bristol City are good on the counter and will cause Watford some problems that way, but like I was saying before, Watford have won their last 4 games at Vicarage Road, so they've been really strong. They've made that ground into a bit of a fortress this season, but Bristol City are no mugs in these types of matches either. Score prediction here, let's go for an entertaining 2-2 draw. Fancy that one to be a bit end-to-end. Next then we go to Sunderland up against West Brom, and it does feel like Sunderland have lost that bit of momentum about them recently. They're still on a really good unbeaten run of form, but their last 4 games have all ended level, and in their last 2 games they've took the lead in both of those matches but haven't been able to hold out for all 3 points. It was Connolly who gave them the lead in that game against Millwall, but the second half was very much Millwall as the aggressors of that half, and in the end they got their rewards and equalised late on. Going up against the West Brom side, who themselves have been so draw heavy of late. It's now 7 of their last 8 matches in the Championship that have ended level. It was a 2-2 draw for the Baggies over the weekend against Norwich City. Really good game of football actually, end to end. Either side could have gone on to win it, and was probably West Brom's most entertaining affair in quite some time. Sunderland really could do with getting back to winning ways sooner rather than later, but with the draw specialists in town being West Brom, I've just got a feeling this one's going to be another one that ends level. Score prediction here, going to go for a 1-1 draw, probably with Sunderland to take the lead and West Brom to come back into it late on. Next then we go to Cardiff up against QPR, and I mean this one is an absolutely massive game at the bottom end of the Championship, isn't it? If QPR win this game, they'll only be 2 points adrift of Cardiff, but if they lose this one and a few other sides in and around the bottom of the table win in midweek as well, then boy, QPR will really be cut adrift at the bottom of the Championship. From a QPR perspective, there were a few positives to take, I thought, from their performance against Stoke over the weekend. Could have won that one had they converted that penalty. The game could have gone in a totally different direction, but ended as a 1-1 draw. But I mean, games like this against sides who are in and around the relegation zone are absolutely crucial. It still feels like that fan base is behind Martí Cifuentes right now, but the problems are piling up. They've been the second lowest scoring side in the league so far this season, one of the worst defensive teams in the Championship so far as well. And from a Cardiff perspective, they're going to have to capitalise on that. It was a decent point for them over the weekend away at Sheffield Wednesday. I think going away from home, when you're in a position like Cardiff are at the moment, hovering just above the bottom three, any point like that on the road is decent, as long as you can follow it up with a good result and performance at home. Last time out at home, Cardiff were put to the sword by Blackburn Rovers, so looking to get back on track in this game against QPR. A draw wouldn't massively surprise me here. I've just got a feeling that with Cardiff being at home, they just sneak this one. 2-1 Cardiff, I'm saying, which would really pile the pressure on QPR at the bottom. Next then we go to Ellen Road for Leeds United up against Luton Town. And I've got a feeling we're in store for a decent game of football here between these two. For Luton, it was absolutely crucial they got something over the weekend against Hull City. In the end, they did, beating them 1-0, considering they were up against a fellow struggler. Luton themselves have struggled to find any sort of consistency so far this season. 3 points and a clean sheet in that game could go a long way in starting to repair some of the faith in Rob Edwards and the rest of that squad after what has been a really underwhelming start to the campaign. But this right here won't be easy, going away to a Leeds United side who have won their last 5 home matches. Now, for Leeds over the weekend, they were involved in by far and away the most bonkers game of the weekend in the Championship. I think most people thought that when Swansea had scored their 3rd goal of the game to level it up at 3-3, we all thought that Leeds had thrown things away and it was going to end as a draw, but they still had that counterpunch in them and in the end pop up with a last-minute winner to win it 3-4. Listen, defensively, there were a lot of problems from a Leeds United perspective in that game, but just from a pure entertainment value, it was one of the best games we've seen in the Championship this season. Back on home soil for this one. It's typically been in away matches where Luton have struggled as well. Luton have lost their last 4 away games and they conceded 13 goals in that time as well. I'm going to back Leeds for another win in this one. 2-1 Leeds, I'm saying, between these two. I think they'll just get the job done. After that, to the Riverside for Middlesbrough up against Blackburn Rovers. And boy, from a Middlesbrough perspective, it really feels like they've got some wind behind their sails right now. They're scoring goals for fun. It's now 15 they've scored in their last 3 Championship matches, which is absolutely mental. They really put Oxford United to the sword over the weekend, didn't they? Putting 6 goals past them. For the Zaz being fantastic once again. Emmanuel Latte-Lath with a hat-trick as well. And they'll surely be fancying their chances against Blackburn in this one, who typically have had more of their struggles on the road so far this season. I know Blackburn won on the road last time out against Cardiff, but generally speaking, they have struggled in some of their away matches so far. It's tricky to say what Blackburn will be like coming into this game, because obviously we've just come off the back of an international break and then their game over the weekend against Portsmouth was postponed, so bit of an extra rest for Blackburn maybe, but you'd definitely say that they'll probably be missing that little bit of match sharpness that Middlesbrough no doubt will have about them in this one. I fancy Middlesbrough to get quite a few goals again. Score prediction here, I'm going to go 3-1 Middlesbrough at the Riverside. It just feels like they're playing with a real confidence at the moment, which is hard for any team to stop. After that, we head to Fratton Park for Portsmouth up against Millwall. Another game which is pretty tough to call right now because we're not sure what Portsmouth will be looking like coming into this match, obviously. Absolutely gutted for any Portsmouth fan that had already started to make that journey up to Blackburn over the weekend, all for that game to be called off in the end. But they're back at Fratton Park here, and generally speaking, they have been pretty competitive in their home matches recently. They've only lost one of their last 4 games at home. But this Millwall side aren't an easy customer to be coming up against right now. It was a solid point for them over the weekend against Sunderland, coming back from a goal behind in that game. They're not giving a lot away to the opposition right now either in terms of chances they're conceding, goals they're giving up or anything like that. But the majority of their away games this season have been pretty tight. And it is worth pointing out Millwall have only won once on the road so far this season. The first goal in this one feels quite important. Score prediction for me though, I'm going to sit on the fence and go for a 1-1 draw. I think it'll be a tight one between those two. And then to finish off the midweek batch of games we've got, it's Derby going up against Swansea. Obviously, me as a Preston fan, I got to see Derby up close and personal over the weekend. And do you know what? They remind me a little bit of Preston under Ryan Lowe on the eye. And I've thought this with a few Derby matches so far this season. I don't think they've been a particularly great watch so far this season. But more often than not, they tend to get a result over the line, whether that's snatching a point or more often than not at home getting all 3 points. And when you're trying to establish yourself back as a championship club, having just come up from League One, that can be pretty invaluable. Obviously, a real threat from set pieces. That was how they scored over the weekend against Preston. They'll cause Swansea some problems in that department. From a Swansea point of view, I mean, they just need to pick themselves up from that game over the weekend. An absolutely mental encounter against Leeds United. Bit of a basketball match, end to end, which really could have gone either way. But to go from the elation of scoring a last-minute equaliser to then go on and lose it just a few minutes later, I mean, it's absolutely gutting, isn't it? And mentally, that can have a bit of an impact on a team going forward. The positives for Swansea is we are starting to see them score more goals now after that goal drought they had. They've started to hit the back of the net a bit more regularly. You know, to have scored 3 goals against Leeds over the weekend and not picked up at least a point is absolutely gutting. Derby don't tend to lose that many games at home. Score prediction here, I'm going to go for a 1-1 between these two. Well guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and make sure to get all your thoughts on the midweek matches in the comments down below. Other than that though guys, thank you very much for tuning in and I'll see you all in the next one.